Welcome again to another edition of Faith in Finance. We're gracious. Thank you again for joining us live on this eighth edition of Faith in Finance, where our topic today is honesty, integrity, and work. We're joined again today live with none other than Mr. Dwayne Anderson. You're doing well today, Dwayne?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's a great
Good.
Sabbath day, and we're excited about our lesson today. We did want to make you aware of what's going to be happening over the next 4 weeks. Over the next 4 weeks, we're down to the wire here. Starting on next week, our times will shift. We will forego the 3:30 time, and going forward, we will be meeting after sunset. So after sunset, meaning at roughly about 7:15, we'll start, and we're going to have experts each and every week for the next 3 weeks. Our leading expert on next Sabbath evening will be a credit expert. He's going to come to us taking your live questions. So we encourage each and every one of you. This has been one of our most hot topics is credit questions. Credit questions talking about how can I get out of collections? How should I pay off a hospital bill that's been after me for so long? How do I build my credit score? All these questions he'll be first presenting, and then he'll be answering all your questions live. So remember, we're going to forego the 3:30 time, and then we're going to start at 7:15 with our credit expert, and we're looking at a 90-minute segment on next Sabbath. Again, Dwayne, this is one of those topics that everybody's been asking about. How can I build my credit? And how can I, better my credit score because at some point I want to purchase a home?
Yeah, this is crucial, obviously. The difference in interest rates between a good credit score and a bad credit score can literally cost you thousands and thousands of dollars over the course of the life of the loan. So having a good credit score is crucial. It's incredibly important. And those who have great credit have incredible buying power and really can reduce those interest payments. If you missed last week's event, we talked about amortization schedules and how interest rates play into that. So if you want to reduce your interest rate, get the best interest rate possible you ever seen when it says, with your very, very low financing for highly qualified people, or you see those rates for a mortgage that are, in some cases, I'm seeing rates as low as 2+%. It's incredibly low. But everyone doesn't qualify for that low rate because your credit doesn't show that you are a trustworthy borrower. So next week, you can't miss it. Share it with your friends. Tell them all about it. We're going to give you our guest is going to be here to give you some tips and hints on how to increase your credit score, which I promise you is going to save you thousands and thousands of dollars over the course of the life of the loans.
Yeah, not everybody may have debt, but everybody has a credit score, whether it's a 0 or an 850, but we all have a credit score. So this is something that we want to make sure we're joining in on next week. As you know, we always look to take your questions during this segment as well. So we'll have that number going across our screen here shortly. For those of you that are joining us on Facebook, we encourage you to send in your questions here as well. After our credit specialist on next week, which we encourage you to attend, the weekend after that is maybe our second most popular topic. It's going to run at the same time, around that 7:15 start time. We're going to have an investment expert. Some people are saying, I'm out of debt, but now I'm ready to invest my money. What's the best place to invest? What are good mutual funds I can invest in? Is it right for me to invest? All those questions will be answered on the 26th of September. And we're going to do a start time about that 7:15 time as well. That way we can go in depth with money and feel free to just talk about each and everything. And then our 11th week, we will have an expert coming in that will give you all the information about establishing a will, establishing your estate. Should I do a living will? Should I do a trust? What's the difference between these things? What do they mean? Should I do one? What should I leave for my family, my friends? I don't ever want to do a will because I feel like if I do a will, I'm going to die the next day. All these myths and questions you have an opportunity to answer or ask and get answers to those questions on October the 3rd, and that's going to be, again, at a 7:15 start time. Then finally, on October the 10th, our session will come to an end when we present a different segment on rewards. That'll be the topic of our lesson, rewards. But we're going to walk you through how to get out of debt in 7 to 8 years, in 5 to 7 years, including the mortgage. That's going to be at a different start time as well. We'll share that information with you as we get closer to that, but that's going to be the very end. So again, starting next Sabbath evening, 7:15, we're going to bring in our credit expert, Mr. Chima Burey, and he's going to be joining us to give you all the answers to a lot of your questions that you have regarding credit. Tell a friend and join us here live on that day. This week, our topic is honesty, integrity, and work. Honesty, integrity, and work. Our lesson is preluded by our text for the day. It's Colossians 3:23 and 24. It simply says, "And whatever you do, do it heartily, as to the Lord and not to men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the reward of the inheritance, for you serve the Lord Christ." You serve the Lord Christ. So if you view your work as something as you working inevitably for the Lord and not for your employer, you'll treat work a little bit differently. Work is important. That's why we're encouraging you to pay attention to this lesson, because work is how you make your income. And you can't have all the other things you want to do and need to do in life without a stream of income. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth as we go along. In the book Education by Ellen G. White, page 145, it says, "No scheme of business or plan of life can be sound or complete that embraces only the brief years of this present life and makes no provision for the unending future." I'm talking about unending future. We're talking about retirement. We're talking about planning outside of just the work you're in right now. I think, Dwayne, a lot of times when people hear the future, a lot of times people don't see the future. They just think of what they have right now. So this quote is really talking about not just now, but work dealing with the future as well.
And one of the things they don't teach you in school really is about planning for the future. I've got a good friend that says, paychecks don't come with instructions.
That's right.
Right? You get the paycheck and you see the money, and then in many cases you build your current life around that paycheck. Sure. But in many cases you're not preparing for the future. And I've seen time and time again where people who have, thought they had plenty of time, when that time actually is coming to an end and they have nothing saved, or they're not in a situation where they can enjoy the fruits of their labor, they are in a tough situation. And many people have to work way past retirement age, and be in a situation where they have to come into work at an age where it's really not convenient for them. So, making these plans from now can really help you in the future.
Definitely. Another text of encouragement is Deuteronomy 28, verse 1. It says, "Now it shall come to pass, if you diligently obey the voice of the Lord your God to observe carefully all his commandments, which I command you today, that the Lord your God will set you high above all nations of the earth." I know I want to be set high above the earth. So again, it's all talking about being diligent in what it is that you do for a living. In verse 2, it also says, "And all these blessings shall come upon you and overtake you." That word overtake also means to tackle you, because you obey the voice of the Lord your God. I would love to be tackled by blessings. I mean, I'm sure most of you all feel that same way as well. So a lot of what we're teaching you is kind of getting your money management in order so that God can bless those that look to help themselves. Christ Object Lessons, page 327 says, "Not more surely is the place prepared for us in the heavenly mansions than is the special place designated on earth where we are to work for God." Now, work is more than earning a living. We'll talk about that now. More than just earning a living. As a Christian, every activity is an opportunity to glorify God. Whether we are working, playing, or resting, we are engaging in our Christian witness. So no matter what it is that we do, we are ultimately engaging in a Christian work, in a Christian witness. How do you act at work? Are you an example of a Christ-like lifestyle at work? At some point, each of us must ask ourselves the following question: what does God want my life's work to be? That's the question we should always ask ourselves, maybe when we're 16, 17, and determining what we want to do as far as a life goal, before determining whether or not we want to go to college or not, depending on whether or not we want to take that loan out to fund our college. That if we chose the wrong decision, we would be paying back on a loan that we're not even working in at this time. That goes back about being in debt on something that we're really not focusing in on, or something that we didn't put God in the equation to ask us if we should do as far as an employment in our deployment decisions as well. The book Education, page 267, says to do our best in the work that lies near us. It helps us to answer this question. and to commit our ways to God, to watch for indications of his providence. Now let's talk a little bit about work as God's plan as well. Work as God's plan. Our Creator placed Adam and Eve in the environment that allowed them the opportunity to work. So it just wasn't an opportunity for them to socialize and gather and look at each other all day and say, you look good, I look good, and not worry about working. Work was incorporated at the very beginning. God intended for all of us to work. And I want to make sure we understand that. Some people don't think they need to work, but that's obviously quite opposite. Follow me in Genesis 2, verse 1 through 3. It says, thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day God ended his work, which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work, which he had made. And God blessed the seventh day, he sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made. God worked, he rested. We work, we rest, obviously on the Sabbath day as well. The work, the rest cycle was established during creation and was included in God's moral law given to Moses on Mount Sinai. It's something about the seventh day and the Sabbath, where there should be a day of rest after our week-long work. Even though Adam and Eve had everything they needed in Eden, God still wanted them to work. Here's an important text. God feels that work is so important for our growth and development that he says, if anyone will not work, neither shall he eat. That's from the Bible. That's not just from your grandmother, even though she might have quoted it to you. That's actually from the Bible. You don't work, you don't eat. You don't sleep sometimes either. Obviously, this wouldn't apply to someone who is physically or mentally unable to work, but if you are able and equipped to work, it is important that we work, because that's how we ultimately take care of our families, take care of ourselves as well. Now, the rewards of diligence, the rewards of actually being diligent in what it is that you do. I know a couple questions are coming in, and we encourage you to keep those questions coming for those of you that are just joining us. And again, we're taking questions on any and every financial topic that you may have, so don't feel like it just needs to be pertinent to the lesson today. Wise King Solomon wrote, do you see a man who excels in his work? He will stand before kings. He will not stand before unknown men. So if you're diligent and excel in your work, you will become an individual who stands before kings and not before unknown men. So that's key to understand, is that our work is key to everything else that we do. And it also wants to let you know that to have a balanced budget, we need a steady income stream, God provides our financial resources through our ability to work. He ordained this for our own well-being. Now, I understand there are many individuals that have work, and when you look at your budget from day to day, week to week, you are under the impression that I need to make some other I need another stream flowing in of income. You know, I need some other resource to build what I already have. I want to get out of debt. What I hear Dwayne and Orville saying is great, but I, at the end of my day, need to have some other form of income to help me get there. So I wanted to speak a little bit about that today. Another opportunity or another stream of income that you all may be able to open yourselves up to that is all around us. And Dwayne, what is that other stream that individuals might have an opportunity to do that?
Well, you know, kind of going back to what you were saying a few moments ago about, let's just kind of lay it out on the line here. You know, over the course of the past several generations, our income streams have not really kept up with inflation and the cost of things in society.
That's right.
And as a result, we get ourselves in a situation where our debt is overwhelming. And remember, you're not just paying for the cost of living, but you're also paying for the interest on the cost of living. So think about it. That house that you bought. You know, I remember my parents back in the early 70s bought their first home in New York. And it was a 3-bedroom home, 2-story with a basement, nice home. And they paid something around $35,000 for it. You know,
in New York.
In New York. Okay. This was on Long Island, Hempstead, Long Island. Pretty decent community. I mean, right across from the school. And I grew up in that home until I eventually moved down to Florida. But I mean, the comparison of what they made and what that house cost them was very, very different than what it is now. You may have a salary of $50,000, and your spouse may have a salary of $50,000, but you know, to really live in a nice neighborhood, a good home, you know, you're looking at upwards of $300,000 to live in that home. And in many cases, your mortgage payment is so high, or you just don't have the money to be able to get into that home. So one of the things you can do is developing another stream of income. And I will tell you that we have never been in a better time in Earth's history where you can develop multiple streams of income from the comfort of your home.
That's true.
And so you have the opportunity now. I mean, there are plenty of sites out there where you can, I'll use one of them, for example, that's very, very popular. You may have heard of the site called eBay, right? Or one of those sites where you can sell an item. If you got items in your home that you don't use anymore that are in still good shape, you can take pictures of it, and go to something like eBay and sell it. You don't have to do a garage sale and hope that someone down the block will buy your, used shoes, right? I mean, you can literally go and find things on throughout your home or eBay. Or if you're very resourceful, maybe you'll go somewhere where you find something at a huge discount, 75% off,
Yes.
right? Brand new, but it's a huge discount. You can buy that item, turn around, and go on one of those sites like eBay and sell that item for a higher price. This is exactly what they do to you when you're looking to buy something.
Exactly.
So that's a way to develop online streams of income. There are plenty of other ways, and you can develop income online. I highly suggest going on sites like YouTube and learning about some of these other ways that you can develop additional streams of income. Literally easy to do from the comfort of your home. There are things called affiliate links where you can actually market other types of items online by using these affiliate links. Amazon is huge with this. There are plenty of options. The reality is that there are ways to develop income without leaving your home.
That's right.
And so do your research. Don't fall for the ones that are, a little bit. Do your research. If one seems a little bit too good to be true, looks like it's a scam, then please be very careful. You shouldn't have to spend money just for the right opportunity to make money. So in this particular case, do your research, go on YouTube, get educated. And that's another thing too, Orville. A site like YouTube. I mean, how can you? I remember when I bought my camera,
Sure.
and I'm not a photographer,
Right.
and I didn't go to photography school, but I spent hours on YouTube learning how to use my camera, learning how to take pictures, learning how to filter those pictures and do all those types of things, and as a result, I became a better photographer. You can educate yourself with anything. And so developing streams of income is one of those ways.
And that's really called, what Dwayne is explaining, is the term they use now is retail arbitrage. So if you wanted to research that. It also, me and Dwayne were talking about before we went on live, is thrift stores. Individuals now, you can go to a thrift store. And again, we're talking about building another income stream on a Sunday, and you can just purchase items for $1, $2, take pictures of these items, create an account on, like Dwayne mentioned, eBay or Amazon, and sell those items. There are people now, for those of you that may not know, that make hundreds of thousands of dollars per year, and that's all they do is retail arbitrage. We also live in a city, Orlando, where there are many outlets here as well. A lot of places where people would like to buy items from, but they live across the seas, or they just don't live in Orlando. You have the opportunity to visit those stores, buy items at discounted prices, then post them online for their retail price, or maybe a markup from that, and still make an income even after you've paid for advertising, shipments, and things along those lines as well. I'll tell you one other thing, then we'll move on. There's also an opportunity with shoes. There's a retail for shoes, individual sneakers, if you will. Nike is one brand that sells very well. So again, we live in Orlando where there are 7 Nike outlets where you can buy Nikes at a low rate and then sell them online for a lot more. And that's a good way to go to make income. So we're just giving you ideals because, again, our whole point is to try to move people from their debt situation out of that. When we did our budget class about 3 weeks ago, there was a lot of people that understood that they needed more income. So we're sharing ideals for you to get more income. If you want more information on that, we have a lot more detailed information that we couldn't go into right now, but you can email or text that information to us and we'll share that with you also.
Yeah, when it comes to doing this, set a goal for yourself. If you look at your situation and you look at your budget shortfall each month, and let's say that you're $500 outside of your budget every single month, find a way to generate an extra $500 a month to go ahead and clear up that budget shortfall. And believe it or not, that 500, if you continue to stay consistent, will grow to 1,000. It will grow to 1,500. It will grow to 2,000. Guess what? Now you're in a situation where you're covering all of your expenses, and now you can pay down debt. Remember, when you pay down debt, you're not just paying down the principal, you're also paying down the interest attached to the principal. So if you have an outstanding credit card of $1,000, you essentially just don't own $1,000.
No.
You don't. You have to. If you pay minimum payments, that $1,000 balloons up to something like $4,000 or $5,000.
Right.
So if you want to get out of debt faster, develop that other stream of income, pay down that debt, and now you're paying down not just the principal, you're paying down the interest. Oh, and by the way, once all of your debt is paid off, guess what? You have a second stream of income or a third stream of income that now you can use to start investing or paying down your mortgage or other things like that. Remember, if you think of yourself as a business, think of yourself as the CEO of you. Any business that I can think of has multiple streams of income. They have multiple items they sell, or they have multiple business centers. There's plenty of ways for them to make money. You should actively be looking for ways to increase your income, not just from your primary source of work. So I highly recommend that you start looking on YouTube and researching some of those things. What Orwell had mentioned earlier about the retail arbitrage is actually huge. I don't know any people personally that make that hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, but I have heard of people making six figures a year just by doing that strategy. So it's not going to happen overnight. There's nothing we're going to tell you today that is a get-rich-quick scheme. Just like any business, it's going to take time. But guess what? Once you develop that skill, once you develop that business, so to speak, when you've paid off your debt, when you've learned everything that you need to learn, you're in a much better situation. Some people actually replace their entire income from their jobs.
Yeah, I know a couple people like that as well. Listen, I do the little retail arbitrage on the side as well, so it does help. And again, more information can be found if you text us or email us as well. Moving on into our lesson about the two-income family. Two-income family. Many people would agree that under ideal circumstances, moms with younger children would prefer to be at home providing a nurturing atmosphere for their growing children. Studies show that children learn the most and fastest in their preschool years. Additionally, most children make their spiritual commitments before the age of 12, talking about the two-income family. Titus 2, 4, and 5 says, admonish the young women to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste homemakers. Proverbs portrays a picture of the working wife who lives a balanced life with the emphasis of her activity being for the home. The Bible does not indicate that a wife should be confined to the home, but that her work should be home-related activities. Now, the two-income double trouble. Two incomes, double trouble. Well, what do you mean, double trouble? Two incomes should be good, because I now have two streams of income. The Two-Income Trap, it's a book written by Elizabeth Warren and Amelia Warren Tyagi, that's her daughter, several years ago. It's an excellent review of the reasons behind the current wave of bankruptcy filings and home mortgage foreclosures in America. I'm going to show you a little video clip here. It's only a 5-minute video clip. We'll show you that very shortly here. But I wanted you to kind of get an idea of the understanding of a two-income trap and why it's actually called a trap. But again, that is the two-income trap we're talking about today. So we'll show a little video here. It's a 5-minute video, so stick with us. Pay close attention to what she's saying. She's being interviewed by one of her colleagues of the Harvard Review several years ago, and you can tell by the video that it is a little while ago as well. So we'll get that video going here very shortly, and we'll discuss it on the back end as we continue to accept your questions as well.
Welcome to Books of Our Time, produced by the Massachusetts School of Law. In the last 35 to 40 years, women have entered the workforce in huge numbers. This did not result, however, in families having an easier time of it financially, as lots of people thought it would. Financial difficulties may, if anything, be more widespread among families today. Today, we shall discuss a book about this situation called The Two-Income Trap. Its authors are Elizabeth Warren, a professor at the Harvard Law School, and her daughter, Amelia Warren Tyagi, a consultant. With me to discuss the book is Professor Elizabeth Warren, and I am Lawrence R. Velvel, the Dean of the Massachusetts School of Law. Thank you, Elizabeth, for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Why don't we start out by you describing the degree to which, the extent to which, bankruptcies have increased dramatically indeed in the last 10 to 20 years?
In the early 1980s, we had about 300,000 bankruptcies in the United States. Last year, annually.
Yeah.
Last year, we had about 1.6 million families who filed for bankruptcy.
So that's about a 500% increase.
That's right.
Yeah.
And what you want to note about these families is that they are in terrible financial trouble at the time they file for bankruptcy. On average, the family who filed for bankruptcy owed more than a year's worth of income in credit cards and other short-term high-interest debt.
Could that be $40,000 or $50,000 a year?
Well, the average family filing for bankruptcy has a little lower income at
Okay.
the time they file for bankruptcy,
Okay.
more in the range of about $30,000 a year.
Still pretty hefty. Okay, go ahead.
But the point is, for most of these families who file, they really have no option. If they don't file for bankruptcy, the interest rate is running so that if they don't charge another thing, if they don't incur another debt, they nonetheless next month will owe more than they owe this month. The month
Yeah.
after that, they'll owe more, and the month after that, they'll owe
Yeah.
more. For most of the families who file for bankruptcy, it really is just a declaration of financial death.
Yeah.
They can't go on any longer, and
Yeah.
that's how they end up in bankruptcy.
A little quick calculation here tells me that I think that the population of the United States has increased from roughly 240 million to roughly 300 million since 1980. So the population has gone up 25%. The number of families in bankruptcy has gone up 500%, and that is 20 to 1.
That's right. Or another way to say it is that the rate of filing per thousand in the population has just about quadrupled
Yeah.
in a little over 20 years in
Yeah.
the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, we should add to this. It's important to know the bankruptcy numbers, but the bankruptcy numbers are not alone. The bankruptcy numbers are just one signal for the kind of trouble that American families are in. Let's take a look at home mortgage foreclosure rates. These are people
Yeah.
who have passed the most vigorous credit screen that we have for consumers in the United States. And what's happened to home mortgage foreclosures over the last 25 years? They're up 3.5-fold.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that's remarkable, particularly because interest rates are low today and housing
Yeah.
prices are strong, so that
Yeah.
when you get into financial trouble, if you're a homeowner, many people can just back out of it and
Yeah.
sell the house
Yeah.
to someone
Yeah.
else
Yeah.
unless it's too loaded down
Yeah.
with debt.
Well, we'll come back to that because one of your many significant points is that even if it is currently one of the most significant credit checks that you can pass through the United States, it's not much of a credit check
No, it's
anymore. You make the point early on in your book that bankruptcy is, I guess it's fair to say, predominantly
Right, we have started one of the videos that was just a little bit longer than we wanted it to be. We're going to give you a 2-minute version of everything Elizabeth Warren talks about the two-income trap in her book. It's going to be a 2-minute version, so we paused that lengthy one to give you the 2-minute version. All right, we'll play that starting right about now.
Most families saw and believed that if he's at work and bringing in a certain amount of money and we could add my salary on top of that, that's how it is we can afford that house in the suburbs. That's how it is that we can keep health insurance for our family. That's how it is that we can have a safe car, that we can put those big bubble car seats in. Indeed, there are books, not just from the 1970s, but from the 2000s, in which economists and other social commentators say the family that has both mom and dad in the workforce is economically diversified. If he loses his job, she still has her job. If she loses her job, he still has his job. And to me, that is the heart of the two-income trap. When the budget shifted to take account of both of those incomes, so that going from needing 52 paychecks a year in order to make the mortgage payment and the health insurance payment, to needing 104 paychecks a year, his and her paychecks, in order to make the mortgage payment and the health insurance payment, the family didn't get financially safer. The family got riskier. So as prices are shooting up, prices for homes in suburbs, for example, what's happening is women, mothers, were increasingly going back to work to try to hit the target, to try to find a way to pay that mortgage. And what happened? The prices shot up. More of them went to work. The prices shot up again. More of them went to work. And they got caught in a trap that no one foresaw, least of all the families themselves.
Well, you're quite right. We have to go to break. Before we do, I'll give the audience, if I may put it this way, a little lesson in economics. The Consumer Price Index, calculated as 100 as of 1790, was only 101 in 1860, just before the beginning of the Civil War. It was only about 245 in 1945 at the end of World War II. As of 2000, which doesn't even include whatever inflation we've had in the last year, it stood at something like 2,099. And that tells a big story about why what happened to the two-income family did happen.
This excerpt is brought to you by the Massachusetts School of Law, the leader of reform in legal education and a leader in multimedia education for the public. To view the full interview and for a full listing of MSL's programs, log on to mslaw.edu.
So, Orville, I mean, that's pretty powerful, right? I mean, you're seeing here exactly, and this was not too long ago, early 2000s, that Elizabeth Warren was saying this, but the two-income family trap. As a result of the fact that two people are now earning income, you've noticed the cost of things have gone up tremendously, right. And making the mother and the father, or the husband and the wife that are working now, have to have both of their incomes to be able to survive, have to have both of their incomes to be able to pay the mortgage, to be able to pay the car note, to be able to pay insurance. All of these things have to be in place. So this is the reason why when one person loses their job, they collapse. This is why a situation where, if you go out of work for 6 months, something happens, if there's an injury or disability, you're in such a financial bind because you need both of those incomes. So if you reverse engineer and go backwards to all the things we were talking about, having the savings and all of those things, this is why it's crucial. Don't fall into the two-income trap where you need to have both of your incomes to survive. This is crucial, Orville, because if you're able to survive on one income, or let's just say 1.5, so to speak, because we know it's challenging, it's not going to be able to go right down right away. But what happens now if you are able to save that other person's income, or able to save a good chunk of their income, or be able to invest and get yourself into a better financial situation where you don't need both incomes to survive? And I think that's exactly what Elizabeth Warren is stating there, and it's affecting the middle class. And you've heard the term about the middle class disappearing. Well, this is one of the reasons, if not the main reason why.
Yeah, you can obviously go on and find and read her book or find the full interview to that we showed you here today. It's very powerful information. And obviously at the end of the day, some wives love to stay home. Some wives or women, that's not what they do. They enjoy the workforce. So we're not necessarily saying that women shouldn't work, but we are saying, I think the core of this matter is we want to try to get people to focus on one income versus living off the two incomes.
Yes, whoever is a breadwinner. I mean, this is not a conversation about whether the woman should stay home or not. If the woman is the primary breadwinner, that's fine. And so the husband's income can be saved at that point. Whatever it is, you've got to put together a plan. Both of you have got to sit down and put together a plan and realize, all right, let's try and live as much as we can off of one income or 1.5 incomes. Let's get our debt in check. Getting into a good financial situation is not just a one-prong approach.
Right.
It is getting all of these things in place so that way you are in a position. Getting rid of the debt is crucial. It's going to be very hard to pay off debt, live with just one income. So maybe you start paying down that debt with the second income. You know what? I'm going to use this entire income to go towards paying down the debt. And we're trying to get you to move in that direction where you're not as dependent on that second income to survive, because once again, you'll find yourself in a situation where bankruptcy becomes a thing, where going into huge amounts of debt becomes a thing. It's a very, very large and deep hole to dig yourself out of.
That's exactly correct. And last thing we'll say is today's dual income families have less discretionary income, obviously, that, like she said, than many years ago. Mothers work usually at home and at the office as well. So those are some of the points we wanted to take back from, or that we wanted to make sure you took away from that. It's a powerful lesson this week. We want to encourage you to study it as well. We're going to start taking your questions here as well. I saw a few questions coming in. We'll start taking those questions. Again, our questions are a variety. We don't encourage you to just ask about maybe just this topic today. Any topic that you have, regarding finances, we encourage you to text those in or ask those via Facebook as well. One of our questions was, do you have to pay taxes for things sold on eBay? You would have to pay taxes. The taxes that you usually pay are from the purchase of your item, however. So when, let's say you buy the item, let's just go with the Nike transition. If you're buying a Nike item, if you're registered as a business, as a not-for-profit, as a business, whether it's a sole proprietorship or an LLC, you can go through and get yourself tax exempt. So when you go to, let's say, Nike to purchase your items, you can get your taxes waived where you're not having to pay taxes. And then you're setting the rate that you want to sell those shoes for, that item for. And the way you set that rate is simply based on what everybody else is purchasing that item for on eBay. Not what people are selling it for, but what people are actually purchasing it for. And that's very different, because you may go on and see that you bought a pair of shoes or whatever item we're talking about for, maybe you bought a shoe for $50 and you thought, man, maybe I can get $150 for that. But if everybody that's purchasing that shoe is only paying $99 for it, that's the rate that you want to set it, because at the end of the day, you want to sell the item. Your key is to sell the item, not to just have the item and sell it, 6 months later. Your key is to get that item and sell it as quickly as possible. Just think of a traditional shoe store. Sure, they can put any price on any of their shoes, but they also have shoes in different ranges, so they are making profit every day, and that's key. And so to answer your question, taxes are paid at the beginning. Now, eBay, Amazon will always send you your statement at the end of the month that you have to submit to your tax preparer, but that's something that goes on the back end. So I hope that kind of
and you get the benefits of having, if you can create a business out of this, then you get the benefits of being able to write off a lot of things too.
Correct.
Having a good accountant will come in handy with that. But there are multiple benefits from that. Selling something out of your home on eBay, you can, once again, speak with your accountant, but you can write off some of your mortgage if you use one particular room for that. So there are many benefits from doing that. If you were just living on that one income that you have from your job, there are ways that you can create that second stream movement. I forgot to mention one earlier. I mean,
Sure.
there's some sites out there like Odesk, or where you can be, if you have a specific skill, you can go ahead and offer your skills as a consultant to firms all across the country and even the world. And they'll pay you for that. You could be a blog writer. You could be someone that everything transcribes. Someone writes a book in another language, and you could transcribe it if you have that ability to. There's so many different things you can do online now, and the accessibility is there. Do your research, and you can find out how to be able to make income.
Basically, if you have the internet, which I dare say 99% of us do have some access to the internet, there are opportunities for you to make income. So the young people are doing it, and I think it may be just a trend where, not necessarily a trend, but maybe that's the wrong term, but it's an opportunity that the young are taking advantage of because it's something that they're used to. They're used to the internet. They're used to doing things online. But I guess I'm really talking to those individuals that may have passed you by, that all you use the internet for is to look up things and research, but not use it as an opportunity to make an income stream. Because remember, at the end of the day, our whole goal in this class is to get everyone out of debt. So at the end of the day, you can return more faithfully to God. And because of your return to God, you can hasten his soon coming by helping out the churches, the organizations that help provide to those, and we store up treasures in heaven by helping those that are less fortunate. That's what storing up treasures in heaven is. And if you find a ministry like Patmos that does that, then you're in essence helping God return a lot sooner. If you want to return a faithful tithe and offering, a lot of times you can't do so because your debts are bad and you don't have enough income to get out of debt quickly. So between the budgeting process, which we went through, and the opportunities to get additional work, these are tools that we're looking to help you to get to that next level. And we're finishing off everything again with a concept of getting your wills, your estate in order. And this is not just for the individual who is a senior individual. This is for that young family that has small kids. And we'll have the young lady speak a little bit more about this on next week as she prepares for 2 weeks from now. But also building your credit, because at some point, most of you individuals either are in a home or want to purchase a home. And at some point, you may have to take a loan out for that home. And if your credit is poor, then your interest rate, like Dwayne mentioned, will be very high. So it's the reason credit score is the reason that you can work the same job as the next person sitting in the booth next to you, and you all can purchase the same car, make the same income, but because that individual's credit is a lot better than, let's say, yours, you may be paying $600 per month on a car payment, and that same individual with the same exact car could be paying $250, all because your credit score, your decisions you made with money are a lot different. So again, we encourage you to join our expert Chima Bury on next Saturday evening around 7:15, when he highlights and gives you answers your questions regarding credit as well.
Yeah, I definitely recommend you invite as many people as you can to this one, as credit has become a huge thing. Orville had mentioned the difference in car payments from two people paying the same or buying the same car, paying different amounts. And it's not just the monthly payment, but also the amount of interest. Remember, interest is literally one of the biggest holes in your pocket. It's one of the biggest ways to lose money and really prevent yourself from getting that financial freedom that you deserve. So all the things we've talked about the entire session, from week one all the way to now, they all tie in together. You can't just pick and choose, I'm going to work on this, and I'm not going to work on that. Or I'm going to focus on this, but I'm not going to focus on that. It's like the wheels, the spokes of a wheel, where if you need to have all of these things in place for your wheel to run perfectly. So you need to be able to get in a situation where you are giving, get into a situation where you are, reducing your debt, making a budget. We talked today about, in different types of income. Credit is important. Learning how amortization schedules work. These all work in concordance with each other, so that way you can get yourself in the best financial situation. You don't want to just be focusing on one and not the other. So I highly recommend you share not just this video or next week's video, but all the videos. Share all of these with people that you know, so that they can really get an understanding of how to apply all these principles and end up in a better financial situation.
It's 3 months of an opportunity that most people won't ever take again. I've kind of did an informal study over the last 5 or 6 years when we've been teaching this class, and understand that the opportunity that you have now, that individual that's watching us right now, that's engaged right now, that's enjoying the lessons they've been taught, most of those individuals will never, ever take an opportunity to go through a class again. So all the information you're receiving right now, we encourage you to actually apply that information while you're excited about it and stoked about it. And trust me, at the end of the day, where your end of the day is 20 years from now, 40 years from now, you'll be excited about the opportunities you take. Remember, we're tying God into everything. So this isn't your traditional, financial advisor who's just talking about finances. We're also talking about building your faith. And when you put God first in your life, in your finances, then God will handle all the rest. All the gray areas that don't seem right to you, that don't seem like they would make sense for you, all those areas that don't seem to match with you, if you're putting God first and praying on every decision you make with your finances, how you should budget, when you should purchase this item, should I purchase this item, let God fill in all the blanks. God, I want to return a faithful tithe and offering, but I can't. I hear what the pastor's saying. I hear what the elders are saying, but they don't know my financial situation. Well, to be quite honest, most people's financial situation is not the best when we look at the entirety of the population. That's why only about 25% of individuals give, not just to church, but in anything, because they're in debt. So we're not just talking about church folk here. We're just talking about giving in general. Most people don't give to anything because they're limited in their giving, because they're saddled by debt, the tyranny of debt. So that's why people don't give. It's not because they don't want to. Most people want to help. They want to give, but they can't. But on the other side, if we were to ask, and we know that because if there was an appeal to give to a family that's in distress, then most people will give without thinking about it. So we want to get you in that concept of getting out of debt so you can reward not only other people, but also reward yourself, because it always feels good to give than to receive. Because if you're in debt, you can't give. And so our goal at the end of the day is get all of us out of debt so we can give and we can hasten the soon return of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
It's a burden. Debt is definitely a burden. And I think when we sit down and take a look at our current situation and realize how much money is going to interest, remember, once again, and I keep saying it, that's literally profit off of your mistake.
Correct.
I'll say that again. Interest is literally profit off of your mistake. If your credit score isn't where it should be, that was your mistake that you made, so to speak. now you're having to pay a higher price. You have to pay a higher price, and in some cases, you're paying it for longer. That's someone else profiting off the mistake that you made. Your car payment, your house payment. Think about it. If your car payment was, let's say you got an interest rate at 10% and you could have gotten it at 3%. Over the course of the life of that loan, we're not talking about, $100. We're talking about literally thousands of dollars difference in what you're paying. Imagine if you took that money and were able to pay off a credit card or be able to apply it to your mortgage. In some cases, it's an entire mortgage payment that you could be making that you're paying in interest, or you could be investing that money over a period of time, over many years, compounds. And that's in 2 weeks from now we're going to talk about those things like compound investing, how you can grow your money. That's the rule of 42. Those types of things are so important to understand. So not just next week, but the following week as well, you really need to understand how money works, and we're going to be going into that with our investment specialist.
Yes, we wind this thing down over the next month, over the next 4 weeks. It really starts to give you a lot of applicable and a lot of tangible concept that you can use in your life, in your finances right away. We try to pound home the whole concept of interest, because interest is money you're giving away. And if we could remove interest from your paycheck every month, meaning the monies or your expenses every month that you're sending out, you would find yourselves having a very good living, even off of the income that you make right now. The income that you make right now, even if it's $35,000 a year and you're feeling that you should be making $70,000 a year, the reason most of us feel like we need to make more money is because we have a lot of debt. And debt, remember, is only decisions that we've made because we didn't have a plan. So anybody that's budgeting and you find yourselves in the deficit each month on your disposable income, well, how can you live with a disposable income of a negative? Well, how we're doing it is we're putting everything on credit. And then we're always behind, always behind. We talked about how much interest is being paid out for the average person, meaning the person that owns a home, maybe a car, maybe has some student loan. You're paying every day about $23 in interest. That's every day. Imagine if I could give you a job and all we paid you was $20 a day. That's a part-time job. Think about that. That's, and man, this is a 7-day-a-week job that we're giving you. It's not a 5-day. So $20 a day is what you're paying in interest, even when you don't wake up and go anywhere. So you're paying $140 of interest per week. And that's paid usually for 30 years because we stay in debt that long or longer. Most of us stay in debt the whole entirety of our life. We come out of college in debt and we die with debt. But because of that, we're not able to make the decisions and provide for our family the way we would want to, in the way that God has planned for us to. So that's our motivation behind what we do here each day. That's why we come to you every week for the past 8 weeks and for the next 4 weeks, and giving you concepts and ideas to help you in getting out of debt and staying that way as well.
Yeah, and I want to clarify something I said earlier. I said rule of 42. It's rule of 72. For some reason, I just get those numbers confused in my head. Sure. So I definitely encourage you to join us. Moving forward, sharing these videos with those, you may consider friends or family. Our goal here, like Orville had mentioned, is to really help as many people as we can get into a better financial situation. We know for a fact that if you're tuning into this show, and there's a lot of people out there that are just like you, they want to give. They want to be better givers. But they look at their checkbook or they look at their financial statement every single month, and they just don't see how it's possible. And it could be something, no fault of your own. But the reality is that you can get to a better place, and you can get to a situation where your debt is eliminated, and we're here to help you do that and get into a situation where you are able to pass down wealth to future generations. I promise you it's available, but it's going to take discipline. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not something that's going to, all right, I'm going to apply all these principles and next year I'm going to be completely out of debt. Right. This is a process. It's like training for a marathon. You're going to have to give up some things. You're going to have to do some things that are uncomfortable. But the lesson that you learn on the other side is incredible. And the fact that you're going to be in a situation where you're not having to worry about having more month at the end of your money. Right. You are now in a better situation to go ahead and say, wow, I've got money at the end of the month. What can I do? So we're excited about next week's class with credit. I encourage you to watch online and to share with others. And then the following week is going to be the investing principles that we had mentioned a little bit earlier.
All right, I'm so excited about this. And remember, at the end of our time, our 12th week, the lesson is entitled Rewards. But again, we're going to walk you through how to get out of debt, all your debts, in 7 years. In 7 years, that's the last week, October 10th as well. So we encourage each and every one of you to join us over the next 4 weeks, very powerful next 4 weeks as we walk you through that. One of our questions that we had was individual asking about a car that they had that's over 200,000 miles, and it's about 7 years old, and they were wondering whether or not they should get rid of that car and look to purchase a new car. My easy answer is, where are you financially with that? If you have some savings set aside for that, then ideally, I think maybe your question was, should I even invest in a car right now at this point? I mean, we didn't go into details, but I'm just going off the question that you might have asked. Should I invest in a car right now? I have a car that's 200,000 miles, and it's about 7 years old. My thing, and I'm a little outside of the norm, I don't purchase cars very often at all. Is that car still running and it's not having any problems, then I would say continue to move on. But in the meantime, start putting aside some funds that you know will be used to purchase a new car. So if and when the car breaks down, you're not forced to make a on-the-spot decision because you hadn't planned for a new car or a new car to you. Because you hadn't put the money aside. So if you're already feeling that you may need to purchase a new car, then start putting money aside. If it's 7 years old, let's put it on the flip side. Maybe it's a car that has a lot of issues with it, and you need to purchase something without knowing the full extent of your question. Let's say you're in that ballpark. Then yes, you would want to look to do something, but whatever your decision is, do not rush into it. Definitely don't purchase a brand new car. Go used, and then try to get the lowest terms, and always put as least down as possible, but your first payment, pay as much as possible as you can in your first payment to reduce the term of your loan as well.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know all the specifics of that particular situation, but if you still owe money on that car, you really want to figure out what's the value that you have in the car versus how much is owed. And in some cases, it's just better to cut your losses. If you realize that this car is giving you problems and you're not just making payments on the car, but you're also having to spend a lot of money to fix the car,
Correct.
then you might want to say, hey, listen, you know what, I'm just going to sell this car. I may owe some money. Let me pay that off and let me reset and start all over again. Start saving some money and get into a situation where now you can buy a better car. A lot of times we hold on to things for way too long. And realizing that we're digging ourselves into a deeper hole because we're not willing to cut the losses that we have at the current time. Well, how am I going to continue to get around? Trust me, you'll find a way. And in many cases, it's going to be a lot cheaper than the situation you're in now. One of the biggest mistakes people don't realize is that they just don't see the future costs of their current decisions.
Right.
And so if they're not making that decision to, let me just cut this loss right now. Let me move on. Let me take care of this debt, get out of this situation so I don't have to make any more payments on this car, and then also I don't have to worry about fixing this car.
That's correct.
Now you're in a situation later on where you've saved some money and you can get yourself into a newer car in a much better mileage situation as well, and you can kind of reset that clock. So know when it's time to cut your losses and move on.
All right, we have a question. You want to read that question?
Yeah, is the 7:15 p.m. seminar in addition to the 3:30 p.m. seminar, and is the 7:15 seminar weekly as well? So for the next, is it 2 or 3 weeks?
It'll be 3 weeks.
The next 3 weeks, we're going to be eliminating the 3:30 event, and we're going to be moving it to 7:15 because we're going to be talking about some things that are better suited to talk at that time, which is credit and investments. So no 3:30 next week, or actually for the next 3 weeks, we're going to be going on to 7:15. And remember, if you miss it live, you can always watch it on playback, but we definitely would love to have you live to answer your questions real time.
And where can we find a schedule? We'll make sure the schedule they ask if it's on the church website. We'll make sure we put it on the church website. We'll promote it as well during the week. Again, these are topics that you want to make sure not only you attend, but also you share with an individual as well. Ideally, you join us with these sessions live. So I know a lot of you join us, during the week. You watch it and you get the benefit of hearing other people's questions answered. You have a particular question that you want answered about your credit. You have a typical question you want to ask about your parents' credit, or you're young and your future credit. You want to make sure you're live to get the answers from an expert. This is an expert that does this for truly a living per se. So he has a lot of answers that he wants to ask. Has a lot of answers to give you. But again, you can only benefit from it if you join us live to get your particular question answered as well. So we encourage you to be here on that day. See another question here. You recommend buying a used versus new car, i.e. a car that is 2 to 5 years old versus brand new car? Definitely. And that's my quick answer. Dwayne, you want to go into a little more detail?
Yeah, you can actually go online and do a lot of research. The benefits of going online right now, you'll find out that the car depreciates the most in the first couple of years. So that's the time period where if you buy a brand new car, the minute you drive, I'm sure you've heard this before, the minute you drive it off the lot, it depreciates. And remember, you're not just losing value in the car, but remember, you also have an interest payment attached to your payment. So think about the future interest plus the depreciation of the car. You're talking about being in a big hole. So the first couple of years, the car starts to depreciate. You can actually go online and find out which cars depreciate faster. Not all cars are the same. Some cars depreciate faster than others. Correct. So if some of these high-line luxury cars, they depreciate very quickly. Cars like BMWs and things of that nature. If you've ever bought a brand new BMW and then seen one for sale 3 or 4 years later, you'll notice a huge difference in the original new car price versus the used car price. So important to know, do your research. Not all cars are the same. Some depreciate quicker than others. But for most intents and purposes, getting that used car right when the depreciation slows down a little bit, that's a good time to purchase it.
And then the last thing I'll say about cars, since we brought it up, I've been, knowing a lot of people that work in the car industry, and one thing that they'll tell me on the side, they won't share with everyone, because obviously they still want to sell vehicles. If you are able to get luxury vehicles, for those of you that are watching that are in that point in your lives, it's always good to then, let's say if you're getting the Mercedes, to not necessarily get the entry-level car, because really and truly what they tell me is the entry-level luxury car is really just the symbol that you're driving around. The manufacturing, the bells and whistles, the quality of the product is not really felt until you go to maybe the second and maybe the third level. Quick example I can think of is maybe Mercedes. They tell me if you can, not settle for the C-Class, but then go up if you can do an E-Class or an AMG, if you're at that level. And I understand people are at different levels that are watching us, but I'm just giving you some tips that I learned over the years in talking to people that they won't tell you this, to the buyer because they want to sell. They'll sell you that C-Class or they'll sell you the BMW 3 Series all day, but you're really just spending money to service that individual or service that vehicle versus in a BMW stepping up to the 5 or 7 Series. And again, with cars, since we're on that topic, make sure you're doing your homework prior to going to purchase a car. Do not go dressed as if you have all the money in the world. And at the end of the day, put down as little as possible. And then when your first payment comes, whatever you had remaining to put down, make that your first payment, and that'll shorten the term of your loan long term. So as we close, we want to again encourage each and every one of you. Share with your friends next week, 7:15. It'll be about a 90-minute segment. We'll come with a presentation. We'll talk about our general topic for that week, and then for a short period of time, so we encourage you to study that lesson. But for the majority of the time, we'll be talking about credit with a credit expert. Bring your questions how to build your credit. Share it with a friend. But the most important thing I want to encourage you to do is to join us live to get those questions answered. And then we'll see you again the following week and the week after that, and we'll culminate everything on October 10th on that Sabbath morning right through that afternoon. And we'll share more information on the church's website as well. You all have a great evening, and we look forward to seeing you on next Saturday evening at 7:15 when we look to help you build your finances through your faith.